Okay, people, so now it's like going on 4 o'clock in the morning. December 29th, 2017. I'm just sitting here going through all this paperwork. This is the stuff that I photocopied within the first few months of Uncle John going missing. I'm glad I did, because I don't have any money for ink and paper right now. So anyway, you know, I'm just looking at this stuff, and as I'm looking at this stuff, people, you know, most people don't care about like little dollar amounts of this or a little dollar amount of that, right? That's one thing I noticed when this stuff all started to happen, because we're not dealing with hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in terms of house sales and stocks and bonds and, you know, people's pension plans and whatever they fucking got, right? You know, people aren't interested in hearing about little teeny weeny trust accounts or, you know, little teeny weeny life insurance policies that, you know, would be just enough to retain a lawyer if I should die from this, people. Like, seriously, man. And, you know, trust accounts that are, like, held on lockdown, like Shimei's trust account. There's nothing much left in there anymore because John and I had to borrow money, and we always had to borrow money on this stuff, right? Over the years, you know? And just an example here, what's provoking me to come back online here with this video is I'm looking at one of these trust funds where we borrowed money on December 20th, people, of 2013. Joan died on December 14th, right? And like, we didn't have any money, right? It's not easy running a household, right, with a high debt load. And you know, we were going back and forth, and so anyway, we borrowed money on Shimei's scholarship fund. We signed the paper on December 20th, 2013. We borrowed it from her scholarship fund that we had started when she was born, which was in 95. And we borrowed, and we had borrowed again too. We borrowed in 14, right? And we borrowed in 2013. December 20th. We put the application in on December 20th, 2013. Right? Just to get us through. Because you have to remember, right? People, like, you know, we got screwed around, right? Quite a bit. You know, my oldest daughter, you know, was tossed out onto the streets in December of 2012. Turned into a junkie within 10 days of that happening. And then, you know, everything just went downhill from there. And then, of course, I had to borrow all this money from, like, my life insurance and wherever I could, mostly from my life. And I borrowed, like, almost $3,000 on my life insurance so I could take it to court, right? So I could take, you know, what happened to Andre to the Supreme Court, because, like I've mentioned in other videos, I didn't qualify for a lawyer. So I borrowed money on my life insurance in 2013 to try and get my grandson back. So times have been actually pretty tough. So, and, you know, if this ever gets in front of a judge where he can look through this paperwork, he's going to see Uncle John's signature everywhere. Right? Like, everywhere, people. Do you see this? This is a IGA Declaration of Active, Passive, Non-Financial Foreign Entity. Anyway, it's in relation to the non-profit. It was something that we had to sign. And we signed this. Actually, people, he signed this before he went into the hospital. He went into the hospital January 13th of 2015. And I made sure he signed this before he went to the hospital because it had to go in the mail. Look, people. Do you see the date on that? Do you see his signature? There it is right there. It just makes me want to cry. Because these people, they just trashed his life. They completely trashed his life. He's still assigning board director people to HSBC Bank. Okay? He's still assigning board director to this bank. Because everything just went into a lockdown. I had him removed from Vancity. He's not assigning board director on Vancity anymore. But the board director that was supposed to sign himself on hasn't done it yet. So technically there's only 2 signatures on the Vancity one. Which is not a very good thing for a foundation. While the HSBC Bank still has the original founding directors in terms of signing directors on that bank account. And Uncle John is one of them. Right? Because everything's in limbo. So, I'm including this, though, in the list of documents. Because there's his signature, people. That was the day, on the date, he went to the hospital. And never came back. Right? So anyway, I feel like crying. Like I really do. Because I know that people don't value that. Because we're not dealing with millions of dollars. Right? We're dealing with broken dreams. Broken lives. You know, smear campaigns. And just criminalizing young people and children, and it just seems to be the norm, right? So anyway, okay, people. So it's going on like probably about 5:30 in the morning here. You know, I had a little Christmas hamper given to me from the Lions Club, right? You've seen it gave Andre the Lego, right? And they were an elderly couple, which would be standard for the Lions Club, right? And that came to my door and, you know, gave me the Christmas hamper and that type of stuff. And then, you know, the man, he asked me if there was anything else I wanted. And I said, you know, I really want a lawyer. I need a lawyer. And then I kind of told him about what was going on. And basically he told me to be careful. And like, seriously, people, I have been so alone outside of my children and my grandson, right? Because we're all suffering. You know, we've been suffering. We were suffering even before Uncle John was taken. Because of the shit that was going on in in the hospital and the stuff that was going on in that care facility, right? Because it just got worse and worse and worse and more worse, and till finally he just disappeared. And my kids were like, you know, getting fearful, and you know, they were having to defend Uncle John, and it just brought up a lot of bad feelings, like when Andre was taken, right? We were treated almost in the same manner, people. Really, really bad. And so, you know, as you know, I've been doing these videos, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and suffer by myself and just be an abused woman and cover up my bruises and act like none of this has ever happened. That's not going to serve any purpose. All that would do is just allow these people to get away with what they've done, right? And you know, I'm sitting here and I'm like especially with this last video, you know, coming to the realization that somebody actually impersonated Uncle John just to get themselves involved with his bank, and then proceeded to do what they did. So, you know, my life has been in danger for a long time, people, because of this crap. And if my life is in danger, my children's lives are in danger, my grandson's life is in danger. Obviously, we know Uncle John's life has been in danger since the beginning, right? And I don't see a purpose in staying quiet about it in terms of like I said, you know, cover up the bruises and don't talk about it. Don't let nobody know that you're being abused. Now, if the court wants to hide that fact and, you know, throw it out because they want to pander to a freaking corporation that obviously doesn't care about its patients, you know, it's not about a duty to the patient. If it was about a duty to the patient, none of this would have happened to Uncle John. None of this would have happened to his family. Right? Because it's not just happening to Uncle John, people. So more reason to talk about it. Really, you know, Uncle John and I, we don't have a lot of assets. We didn't have a lot of assets. All we had was a family. So our assets don't make the court interested in our story because we're not dealing with millions of dollars. I'm sure if there was $1 million to, you know, talk about, it would be different, but it's not. You know, we're talking, like I said, with just small amounts of dollars, or what was in the past, not what is anymore. Right? And like, oh, I'm just gonna keep doing. I got, what, how many days left? Today's what, the 29th? Today's the 29th? So the 29th, 30, I think there's 31 days, right? 31, the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd. I have to go out by the 4th, the 5th, the latest, because I lose those 2 days, right? So what, I have 6 days to finish up what I'm working on? So I don't know if I'll get it done. I'm just going to submit in what I have, people. I mean, obviously I'm going like this with my emotions. You can see that through my videos, as I'm having to go through this stuff. Right? Trying not to, one, be scared. That's a big one. You can't be scared. You know? You can't cover up those bruises and pretend that you're not being abused. That doesn't accomplish anything, people. Alright? That just allows these people to abuse you for the next 25, 30, 50 years of your life until you're dead. That's the only thing that will happen if I just pretend that it's not happening. And, yeah. So I'm really tired, and I feel like I should sit here for another couple of more hours. Right? Because I still got lots to do. I don't know if I'll get it all done. I've done a fair amount. I got 4 pages listed pretty much of just personal documents, but again, we're not dealing with $1 million or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you know, millions of dollars. We're dealing with $5 to a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000. But instead of thinking of it like that, what people need to think about, for the ones that are sincere, right? For the ones that are, you know, they don't have something to gain by trying to cover this up, right? You know, if this can set a precedence to prevent those ones with the millions from having to go through what Uncle John went through with his $5, right? Or $100 or $1,000 versus $1 million versus $5 million versus $10 million. If this helps to stop this from happening to somebody else that has more money, which would put them at more risk than what happened to Uncle John, because technically Uncle John didn't really have any money, people. Those people only thought he had money, right? They went looking for those millions and they didn't find it, or however much a superannuation life insurance policy pays out, right? Because I'm pretty sure if he didn't have that, the interest in him wouldn't have been as strong. That's for sure. The pension plan was attractive, but that's not what fueled it. It was the superannuation life insurance policy that they went looking for, people. That was the big cash money out. That was the big cash out. Right. So, if this helps somebody later on down the line, assuming that the court does its job, seriously, right? And these corporations are serious about doing their jobs to protect the public and their patients and the patients' families, because this family is at risk big time. Whether I stay quiet or whether I talk about it, it doesn't matter, people, because the only way you're going to break the cycle of abuse is, one, talking about it and standing up to it, right? That's the only way. Otherwise, these people will continue to abuse you until you're dead. So, for every cloud, there's a silver lining, and I'd like to think that that silver lining will be to help somebody else someday. Really, seriously. Because I wouldn't wish this upon anybody that was undeserving of it, right? You know? Okay, people, so I think it's the 29th today, right? I went to bed like at 5:30 in the morning. I've been up for a couple of hours. I'm just gathering up papers and trying to have at least a set of 3, right? And because I had photocopied in the back in the past, right? I have enough to kind of put 3 sets together, right? Although when I asked for the public guardian and trustee to do a review, like an investigation on Uncle John, I had to get into one of those envelopes or whatever I had there and make their own envelope and send it off. And you have to remember, this paperwork has been around for almost 3 years, right? So I'm having to reorganize it all right now. That's basically what I did all day yesterday, early into the wee hours of the morning, in between my nervous breakdown with Uncle John being impostered, right? That's how they got a hold of his bank account, people. They got his dividend bank statement, or his dividend credit card statement. They put the mail transfer in, and then what happened was the CIBC dividend credit card statement got redirected to her. That's why she called up the credit department, the credit card department. That's how she got in, right? Like I said, they broke into John's bank account. And then that's how she got the information for my Royal, because the Royal comes in his name and my name. And there were about 3 or 4 months where I just didn't get any Royal bills. I had to phone up Royal and ask them to send me copies of the bills that I wasn't getting because they were being redirected to somewhere else. Right, people? So I'm living like a ongoing nightmare here. Well, my kids are like extremely depressed. My youngest is trying to keep me motivated because I asked her to keep me motivated because I don't have Uncle John here to keep me motivated. So I tell her, you know, you need to keep me motivated. You have to just remind me that I'm doing a good job and to keep trying and to not give up because that's what he used to do. So anyway, I found that letter. I got one here too. You can see it says "To Your Honor." Where does it say that? Right there. And it was written March 21st, 2015. Obviously it regarded Andre, right? Because, you know, for some reason people like to attack my family. I'm not going to read it, people, but can you see how many pages? I'm going to submit it in with my notice of claim. That's, wait, just let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pages. Oh, and look at that, people. There's John's signature. Do you see it? Do you see it, people? There's his signature. After I was done reading it. There's Marcane's signature. There's Tisha's signature. There's my signature. Right? I'll read you my last paragraph. I, Judy Chorney, could write 100 more pages. But that would only distract away from the issues, which is Andre needs to be returned home immediately, just as fast as he was taken away, so that Andre and his family can move forward instead of living a lie controlled by social workers who have no code of ethics. We're tired of being mistreated from social workers and by those who support them, and we're afraid for Andre being maltreated to where it become negligence to cause bodily harm under an assault category that only seems to compound for every day he remains to languish in foster care. Andre does not need foster care, as he already has a loving family who's been looking after him, and we are all asking the court to release Andre back into our care so that he can come home to where he belongs. And you know what, people? The judge probably never got a chance to read it. That was written on March 21st of 2015. They took Andre from that daycare, right, on January 15th of 2013. We didn't get Andre back until March of 2014. So obviously, no judge read that, people, right? But I'm including it because it shows the ongoing stress that the union sector creates on vulnerable families so that it can prop itself up with their pension plans and their benefit packages and their life insurance policies and all that other stuff as they continue to make money while they do it. So not only do they get paid to do the things that they do to disrupt lives so they can continue getting a paycheck every month, right? But they also get to bank those benefit packages and, you know, disability packages and their life insurance policies and, you know, their medical and dental plans and all that other crap, right? So they get paid twice, people, really. They get paid in the immediate while they are doing what they're doing in terms of destroying families, and making us jump through hoops and spend all this unnecessary money trying on paperwork and, you know, trying to file this and trying to do that. And they just ignore it, people, because we live in a lawless society, honest to God. Okay, this is the one that I wrote in 2005. For some reason, it doesn't have a date on it, but I know they got it. And here again, here is Uncle John's signature, because as I used to write these things, you know, I'd read them to him, right? And, you know, we'd talk or whatever, and, you know, I'd shoot the shit with him, and, you know, if there was something I was missing, or maybe, you know, he thought I needed to put it in, you know, he'd remind me to put it in, or I would put it in, or whatever it was, right? So anyway, this one is to the Attorney General, right? Leonard Krong, MLA Nanaimo, Public Safety and Solicitor General, Gert Rupp Bar, Surrey, okay, Ridge, whatever it is. And then I go on to address all the other health ministers within this. There's how many pages on this one here, people? Like 24 pages, right? And you can see that for each section that I was dealing with, right? Here are the ministers. You can see them there, right? You can see them there. And it just goes on, right? Here's another set. Do you see? I don't have time to read this right now because I'm going to show you what I'm doing and why I'm having a nervous breakdown. Right? One day I'll read this to you because, you know, it's, again, it shows how the BC Liberal government went on the attack with the poorest of the poor. You can see, there it is. What page is that one on? Page 13. There they are listed again. All in relation to, there they are again. Because again, I was looking after that little girl for no payment, with no payment, people, for the Ministry of Children and Family Development. That my payment for that was that I didn't lose my house, my shanty shack, right? That was my payment. There's that, right? And I looked after the woman because she was mentally ill and she didn't qualify for any health care services, right? So this is why I wrote this, right? Because I wanted these people to be aware as to what was going on in the community, in the real world, not in the chambers in the Legislative House of Assembly with their, you know, chat with, especially with the BC Liberal government breaking up the debates and all that other stuff where, you know, like I said in the past, you couldn't find what you were looking for. Here's something that my son wrote. Okay, I don't know if he feels like this anymore, but this is what he wrote for school, and I submitted it with this, I think, or maybe I submitted this one to the Minister of Health with that other one with Uncle John, right, where his prostate, he was mistreated. But anyway, she inspires me. I'll just read this, and then I'm just going to upload what I said last night when I was working in here in terms of, you know, maybe all this paperwork, people, doesn't mean much in the great grand scheme of billions and millions of dollars, because, you know, that's how we seem to put value on people, is how much money that they own, right? And you know, I'm dealing with, you know, $5 here and $4 there, and, you know, maybe $100 here, maybe $1,000 over there, and but outside of that, that's about it, right? It's nothing like $1 million over here and $750,000 over there and another $200,000 over there, right? But if this can happen to us with our little incomes, in terms of, like, you know, we were just average people, you know, trying to do right by the community in terms of foundation, which, by the way, is going down the tubes, people, because I have no time to work on it, right? Trademark in the United States is going out the fucking door, right? Because I have no time to work on it. People are reluctant to hook up with me because of all this negative bullshit that's going on with, you know, again, Fraser Health, you know, just passing the buck, trying to be, you know, convoluted with their the way they're trying to dismiss the court and everything. It's like they're accusing me all over again, people. They're accusing me all over again, just like they were accusing me in the hallways when my kids and I went to go visit Uncle John before he disappeared. Okay? So anyway, let me just read what my youngest son wrote a few years back. I was brought up in a middle-class neighborhood Big house, 5 bedrooms. That was before BC Liberal came in and illegally cut me off of welfare in 2003 with 5 dependent children, 9 months before the legislation even came in. Okay? Big basement, big backyard, and it was the best place we lived in my entire life. Living in relative security as a single mother of 5 on welfare, my mom felt quite grateful and wanted to give back to the community. That's why I founded a nonprofit, people. I have always looked up to my mom and her ideals of freedom and justice, but even I was apprehensive when she suggested to start an NGO to aid in social development. I can't get the papers wet here, right? At the time, I was very young and didn't understand the nuance of the political world. How one part gets dominance and the other part gets screwed over. However, Mom was serious about the undertaking, developing a non-profit organization with plans and ideas like Mom's would have been so helpful to the needy and impoverished. I believe that as part of society, we should all contribute to society. When Mom set to work, she was doing more than her share of work and believed she could succeed. The input society received from Mom was always avoided and passed around until forgotten. For 7.5 long years, my mom worked and made no progress whatsoever. Did park events, people. You know, I worked at Gateway Place with the kids, right? You know, churches were more interested in just doing their thing instead of trying to help me. Politicians had me going from one politician to another politician, back to another politician. It didn't matter if it was city councillors. It didn't matter if it was MLAs from the BC Liberal Party or from the NDP Party. I was going from person to person to person, political person to political person to political person. They had me running around for fucking years, back and forth. None of the volunteers were doing work. Every day I would come home from school to see Mom work from the time I came home to the time I went to bed. Mom wrote hundreds of pages of paperwork a week asking for the city to participate and help with the social programs she was trying to implement. I had to stand there helpless, watching her be refused and shut down at any chance she had. It became even worse when welfare reform was implemented. Being a family on welfare, the budget was tight enough. Being kicked off of welfare made it impossible to live under the current rent, so we moved. The crack dealer living a block away, though, still collected a welfare check, while we had to move into a 2-bedroom apartment suite, very tiny. We were only in that apartment suite for 3 months until I had to move us out of there, and then we ended up in the shanty shack. It was intolerable to live in those conditions, slipping through your doorway because your previous possessions take up too much room in your small living space. Having to stop at the food bank to pick up donations because we couldn't afford food was hard to submit myself to. I kept thinking, why doesn't she give up? Why does she believe after all the crap? I've never seen someone more stubborn and optimistic than my mom. Growing up, I soon became jealous of the nonprofit. Soon I hated it. I never let my mom learn about my hatred because I didn't want to cause more stress to her than the huge amounts she gets every day. The thing was in my way. It took from me and sent my family spiraling into debt. It was ruining our lives, yet she still went on, pursuing the dream of a better world where the youth were properly supported. The government was shooting down all our attempts to start the heart of it. Everywhere we turned, it was blocked. The government actually singled us out to blot out any attempts to try again. Anytime I put a proposal, they denied it. They either flat out said no, or they would refer me to the province. Which means I had to go see MLAs. And then an LMA would send me to another MLA, and then that MLA would send me to another MLA, to the point where I came right back to the first one I started with. It was horrible. I felt as if all hope was lost. What was the point of trying anymore? I started to protest attempts at achieving a workable angle to improve. I argued that we should just stop and recoup our losses. I still get it, people. We still argue, not too much, because we know it's just going to end up into a great big debate, right? But anyway, the possibility of bankruptcy was looming, and living on the streets would have been our only other option. Mom couldn't work. Our grandpa's pension could only pay so much. Life, and don't forget, this is when my debt load went up to 40 grand. Okay? Life was looking bleak and mournful. I began to wait for the wash of politics to envelope our family and identities. But my mother kept going, and she was just as depressed as me, and ranting with me about how we should just give up and drop it. Even so, the pages kept on being wrote. The books kept being balanced, and the nonprofit was still running. Eventually, I realized that the nonprofit acted as Mom's test, a test to see if society was still human. I realized she fought tooth and nail for no gain and constant loss. I was stressed beyond limits. I couldn't keep up in school. I had no money. The money from my job I had was short-lived. I developed a mental illness and put our family through tough times. It was pure luck I got through it fine and in one piece. Initially, I didn't tell anyone in my family and found help elsewhere. But during my argument with my mother, the truth slipped, and suddenly she knew. My mom, she inspires me, caught in a never-ending game of cat and mouse, never reaching the end of all the crap. Still, she moves on. Whether she likes it or not, she continues. The politics that forced us out of our home oppressed us as well. My mom, never able to achieve the most honorable thing a person can do, help those less fortunate. A selfless being that wishes nothing but good for anyone. That's my mom. So, you can see, people. Okay, I'm going through it now. Right? I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm trying.